Welcome back to For Riel. My name's Claire, and today I'm going to be talking to you about houses and apartments in Cambodia, which one might be best for you, and why you might choose one over the other. Just to give you a bit of a background, Jeremy and I have lived in quite a number of different places in our time in Cambodia. We've lived across Siem Reap, Kampot, Kep, and Phnom Penh. So we do have a bit of experience in other places, but most of the time we've been here, we have spent in Siem Reap. Okay, let's talk about security versus privacy in terms of houses and apartments. So, not going to lie, I think your security is probably going to be better in an apartment because you're going to have other people around. Often apartment buildings have CCTVs and things like that, or sometimes they even have a guard. And for those reasons, they're a bit more safe and secure than a house. But if you choose a house wisely based on its location, what's around it, you shouldn't have any problems at all. I think a house has more privacy than an apartment because in an apartment you tend to have a lot of common areas, so you have to park your bike in a common space, there's common stairwells, lifts, facilities if there are any, things like that. So people can kind of see your comings and goings a lot more than what they can in a house. Wow, it's really, really hot out here. I just wanted to show you that when you live in a house, you have your own parking space, more so than you do in an apartment. And that means nobody's going to bump your mirror. When you come to your bike, it will be exactly as you left it, which is a good thing. Another of the positives of living in an apartment is that you have other people living there. So you've got ready-made potential people that you can connect with. So that's definitely a positive. Another thing about houses versus apartments is that you can often find apartments that require no deposit and they don't need you to sign a lease or anything. It's just kind of a month-to-month thing. Whereas with a house, you're much more likely to need to sign a lease or a contract. And it's much more likely that that contract is going to be for a minimum of 1 year. So be prepared for that if you're interested in a house. Okay, let's talk about things that may or may not be included. So if you live in an apartment, it's much more likely to be furnished. You can find houses that are furnished, but sometimes it's quite sparsely furnished and doesn't include things like a washing machine. We're very fortunate that we live in a house that came with a very, very large washing machine. If you're interested in an ultra-modern place and you don't want to deal with someone else's weird design choices, such as this, you're probably going to find that apartments are better suited to your taste. If you want features like swimming pools and gyms, you're more likely going to find those in an apartment. You can find houses that have swimming pools, but they tend to be quite expensive, so expect to pay in the region of about $600 if you want a house with a private pool. You do, however, find other features in houses that you might not find in an apartment, such as a rooftop terrace. Okay, let's talk about space. Now, when you find apartments in Cambodia, they tend to be studios or one bedrooms. You can find larger 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, but they're more likely studios and 1 bedroom apartments. If you want more space, you're going to have more choice if you look to houses. We moved into this place because it's got a spare bedroom and I use it as my office, as you can see. Whether you live in a house or an apartment, be prepared for some fun design features. Just like this toilet that we have in one of our bathrooms that you cannot sit on and put your knees in front. If you want to have a dog, or indeed 1,000 cats, you might find that a house is a better option for you. It's much easier to get landlords to agree to pets if it's a house. One big advantage that houses have over apartments is the cost of utilities. So we found that when we moved from apartments where the electricity is 25 cents a kilowatt to a house, it was much, much cheaper. So we're now paying about 700 Riel per kilowatt, I think that's what it is. I'll check with Jeremy because he knows the ins and outs of these things much more than I do. But there was a substantial drop in the cost of our electricity because we're paying direct to the bill, not via the owner, who also has to factor in like lighting of common areas and things like that. So if you want cheaper electricity, a house is a good option. Water is very, very inexpensive as well. We pay it according to our usage, whereas often in apartments you'll find that they charge a flat fee, which doesn't sound like much. It can be maybe $5 or, $4 a person or something like that. But in reality, we very rarely use more than $1.50 worth of water. So you're going to find there's savings, very, very small savings, but savings nonetheless. If you have mobility issues and you don't like steps, you're probably going to need to look for an apartment, either one that's on the ground floor so you don't need to deal with steps at all, or one that has a lift. There are plenty of those around and you should have no trouble finding a place that can accommodate your needs. So if you want to live in a town centre, then you're probably going to be looking more towards apartments. If you're more interested in living out in a village, like in Prey Tom, for example, then the majority of the housing stock out in those kinds of places tends to be houses. So if you have a particular kind of area that you want to live in mind, that might dictate to you the kind of property that's available for your choice. Did I mention that we've got lots of plants now we live in a house? Need storage space? A house is probably the best option for you. Okay, let's talk about Wi-Fi. If you're anything like us, you need internet like you need air. So if you live in an apartment, 9 times out of 10, there will be internet already included in the price. If you live in a house, more than likely it won't have internet connected and you'll have to do that yourself. It's very inexpensive, but it's something that you have to factor in and that you'll have to get organised yourself when you move in. Maybe you're the kind of person who'd like a few services included in your monthly rent. If that's the case, an apartment is probably the best option for you, as sometimes they have monthly cleaners involved and included in the price. If you live in a house, you're going to have to sort that out for yourself. Okay, now we've got to get down to the business end of this video. We need to talk about price. We need to talk about which of these is cheaper. Is it the house? Is it the apartment? Well, the good news is that prices, in Siem Reap at least, are still very, very affordable. They have not bounced back to the pre-COVID levels that they were. Over the time that we've lived in Cambodia, we have paid anywhere from $160 for the cheapest apartment to $500 for the lovely apartment that we had in Phnom Penh. So the range is definitely there. At the moment, we're paying $300 for this freestanding house, or villa as they sometimes call them. As I said before, it's got 2 bedrooms, it's got 3 bathrooms, rooftop terrace, it's very comfortable, it's very nicely furnished. So I think that's an absolutely fantastic deal. Like I said before, if you're wanting a private house that has its own pool, you're probably looking upwards of $600. If you're looking for an apartment with a pool, you can definitely find those starting around $200 if it's a studio, and upwards of about $250 if it's a separate bedroom that you're looking for. So still really, really affordable and plenty of choice on the market too. There are loads of estate agents in Siem Reap, different people, lots of Facebook groups that you can join. I suggest if you are thinking of coming over, join those Facebook groups so you can get a sense of the price of things, and also you can get a sense of the different agents that are around and the different properties that they have. One thing I will say just before I sign off here is that it's not like it is in the West, in that there's no exclusivity with agents here. If one agent lists a property, there could be another 10 agents listing the same property. So this is why if you ask an agent, if you see a property you like and you contact them and you ask them if it's still available, it might take them a day or two to get back to you because they have to first contact the owner. Because all of the other agents are listing the same property, if one of those has shown it to a potential client and that client has signed a lease, they're not going to inform all the other agents that it's been taken. They have to find that out themselves by asking. So it's a little bit frustrating, but once you know the reason for that, you can understand a little bit more why it takes a little bit longer. So I guess the takeaway from that is if you see something, jump on it straight away, because other agents could be pushing it out to other places. And if it's still available, that's a really lucky thing, because often they're not. Even on websites, you'll find some of the bigger companies don't actually take down the properties when they become rented or unavailable. They just leave them there and then use the same listing once it becomes available again. So that's another thing, I suppose. The photos that you look at might be several years older than the time when you're actually going to view the property. So it may be markedly different by the time you actually get there to look at it on the ground. So I hope this has been helpful and a little bit of fun. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.